Tourism industry taking a major hit, of course, during the COVID-19 lockdown, slowly starting to claw its way back to reverse the massive job losses. But now, of course, we have stage 5 blackouts. I wonder how that's affecting everything. Now, there is a giant in the sector. I'm sure many people know the name. The Radisson Group is trying to be a part of the resurgence. Its Vice President, Ramsay Rankoussi, joining us now to talk about this as well. And Ramsay, good to have you on eNCA. And first, before we talk about the tourism sector, can we just talk about the elephant in the room for a second as well? And surely that has to be stage 5 blackouts, because I imagine regardless of what investment summits you go to, whatever meetings you have over Zoom, the tourism sector does not need this right now, do they?
No, of course not. But I mean, in any case, we have always preventive measure in regards to blackouts. So all the hotels that we have often sustain themselves with generators and backup electricity plants. So that is something that we have always carried in every location. This is not exclusively to South Africa and its own issue. It's something that we have out of safety measures.
And so when this starts looking at the impact of tourism, because we had COVID-19 and now we've got something like these ongoing blackouts, are we really seeing a recovery in tourism, or is it just better than we had during COVID-19? Because anything would be better than COVID-19.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, the signs are very positive. And to give you an indication, if we take South Africa and then afterwards we look at Africa as a continent, obviously versus 2019, in some cases we have already recovered the same numbers, and that is a very positive sign. I think South Africa itself, we're probably still 10% behind 2019. But when you look at 2021, so versus last year, we have already doubled our growth in terms of revenue. And that is really showing you a sign of acceleration and a sign of recovery. I mean, obviously, when you isolate South Africa as a market that has been extremely dependent of international and leisure travelers. Yeah. So COVID was the lockdown, the virus lockdown that South Africa faced was limiting the ability of welcoming international travelers. What we have discovered after COVID and during COVID is that the strength of the domestic tourism is a positive sign of recovery that we've seen in specific market, especially in West and North. When you look at South Africa itself, domestic tourism is certainly less than the international travelers. Now with the open borders and the acceleration of recovery in terms of ease of travel, it's certainly a positive sign for all of us.
It's certainly a positive sign for those who want to travel. What about those who work in the tourism sector? It was a bloodbath, wasn't it, for jobs in the tourism sector? How do we begin to recover from that? We had a lot of companies and travel agencies closing down, some real damage you have to recover from. Talk to me about jobs. What's the idea of Radisson Blue behind that?
Look, I mean, at this stage for us, we took a slightly different position during COVID, is that we didn't, take a part of any of our existing employees. We often work with government and different local jurisdictions to see what were the social plans that were provided. Otherwise, as a company, we stood. And we also try to maintain open most of the properties we have. Even in South Africa, I think we probably only closed 2 hotels or 3 hotels out of 14 that we currently have in operation. Now, what is truly the challenge in regards to labor is actually the shortage of labor that we face globally, because a lot of people, as you said, have left the industry, have discovered the current industry, retail industry has taken over even manufacturing, and now they probably don't feel the same interest in working back in hospitality. So the challenge that we have is retaining talent, but also recruiting new talent. So we have spent a lot of time now in training more our people locally and spending more time with them, improving our benefits, but also trying to improve the culture so that people recognize that the industry is certainly a growth industry. And again, I'm sure you know the fact, but in terms of employment and in terms of contribution to GDP globally, tourism is more than 10%. So as of this stage, it's still one of the major industries that needs to be supported, I think, from public initiative as much as the private sector.
Yeah, and that support is going to be extremely important, especially as we get to that peak period, December, the first December, Ramsay, since COVID-19 and the lockdowns being lifted, all the restrictions gone as well. This is going to be a moment in our tourism recovery that we're going to look back on in years to come and go, what did we do in December of 2022 to get as many people back into our country as possible? What's the plans from your perspective to get as many people back in SA as possible?
So look, I think the positive news that we have all read recently is the increase of airlines that actually are reaching to South Africa, and even new airlift have been provided to Cape Town. So I think this is a very positive news for the summer holidays as they come forward. I think we will see a lot of returns of South African living abroad again, but take the chance now to reunite with their family, which haven't happened for the last 2 years, as you mentioned. But we're already seeing a pickup of leisure travelers these days. Obviously, Cape Town is much more leisure than if we take other key cities like Johannesburg. But we see the return even of business travelers these days. We see a massive increase in meeting space, which was probably what we were the most doubtful of recovery, which was, the use of meeting space and the desire of people to connect again to the country. I think now a lot of companies are desiring to meet again and gather again. And I think South Africa, because of all the facility and the nature it provides, a lot of people are willing to reconnect and meet locally.
Ramsay, all the best to you and your group as well for December. I think it's what everybody is getting ready for. Hopefully we can make some kind of recovery. Radisson Hotel Group's Vice President of Business Development, it is Ramsay Rankoussi joining us here on the South African Morning. It's that moment in December. I think this is going to be the numbers when we come to January, February, March of next year. How successful has all the initiatives been for tourism to try and get everybody, as many people as possible, back into travelling around South Africa as locals and internationals, but let's not forget hopefully more job opportunities as well for the tourism sector.